Out in a remote rural county where the nearest neighbor lived a mile down an unpaved road, the evenings carried a quiet that felt almost too heavy. The houses were spaced far apart, the wide fields rolling out like endless blankets of dry grass, and the only real sound after dusk came from the hum of power lines that often failed without warning. On this particular night, those lines flickered again, causing the lights inside Aiden's old farmhouse to pulse weakly. A metallic smell seemed to drift through the air, faint but sharp enough that even an 11-year-old could tell something wasn't right. Officer Jenna Cole was already riding along the fence line on her patrol horse, scanning the fields the way she always did at night. Beside her trotted Bruno, her aging but still alert partner, who stopped suddenly, body stiff, ears pointed toward Aiden's home, as if he sensed something no one else could. Inside that quiet house stood Aiden, a small boy with a gentle way of speaking and a tendency to observe more than he talked. Usually healthy, usually calm, but tonight his breathing felt uneven as he stepped through the dim kitchen lit only by the flickering bulb overhead. His mother hadn't returned from her shift in town, and he had already tried calling her twice, each time hearing nothing but the hollow ring before voicemail clicked in. He kept reminding himself she was probably fine, just delayed like she sometimes was when the bus schedule changed. But the house felt different now. The shadows in the hallway seemed deeper, the metallic smell seemed stronger, and just outside the window, he thought he heard a low growl, deep enough to vibrate the old glass pane. He whispered, "Mom?" even though he knew she wasn't there to answer. Out in the field, Officer Jenna leaned slightly forward in the saddle, trying to understand why her horse suddenly refused to move closer to the house. Its breathing had gone fast and sharp, ears pinned back as though responding to something unseen. Bruno, standing ahead of them both, lifted his head and released a low rumble from his throat, not aggressive, but warning. Jenna had spent years working with animals, first with K-9 units and now mounted patrol, and she trusted their instincts more than most people trusted their own. She scanned the yard, noticing the way the porch light flickered just like the others in town had earlier that evening. The wind shifted then, carrying that metallic scent straight toward her. She felt an odd chill run down her arms. She thought briefly whether she should call for backup, but nothing looked out of place, nothing she could name anyway. Aiden stepped closer to the living room doorway, holding the edge of the frame the way a child does when trying to be brave without admitting fear. Every sound felt louder now, the ticking clock, the hum of the dying light, the soft creaks of the house settling against cold air. Then came the growl again, this time from somewhere behind the back door. It was low, steady, and unlike any dog he had ever heard in the area. Aiden froze. His heart thumped so loudly he wondered if that alone might give him away. He took one small step backward, and that was when the lights flashed off completely. Total darkness swallowed the room, and in that darkness, something scraped lightly against the outside wall, slow and deliberate. Aiden opened his mouth to call for help, but before he could, Jenna didn't wait for protocol. The memory of Aiden's scream still echoed in her mind as she rushed up the steps, kicked the door open, and swept her flashlight across the dark living room. The beam landed on the small figure trembling near the center of the floor. Aiden lay curled tightly on his side, shirt damp with sweat, face pale in a way that made Jenna's stomach tense. His eyes were wide and unfocused, as if he had seen something he couldn't fully understand. When she knelt beside him, she noticed strange bruises forming along his ribs, the shapes shifting almost like they were responding to his heartbeat. Bruno stood rigid near the basement door, teeth bared in a low, steady growl directed at something beyond the wood. Jenna reached for her radio, already knowing something was very wrong, and every instinct she had built over years of service told her the danger wasn't coming from outside the house, but from within it. Back at the small dispatch center, Jenna's radio call had already been logged. The dispatcher, confused by Jenna's sudden request for medical support, replayed the earlier emergency call from Aiden's home. At first, it was just the boy's shaky breathing and the unstable hum of the failing electricity. But then, layered beneath his voice, came something else. A second voice, low and rasping, like air pushed through a throat not meant for human speech. It spoke just one word, but it was spoken with intention, as though responding to Aiden himself. The dispatcher froze the audio, played it again, then again slower, hoping it was interference. But the more she listened, the clearer it became that whatever spoke was not a malfunction. It was real, and worst of all, every time she lowered the volume, it sounded like the voice shifted pitch, as if trying to mimic human cadence, and it wasn't speaking English. Inside the dim living room, Aiden clutched Jenna's arm with a trembling hand. His voice came out barely above a whisper as he tried to explain what he had been feeling. He pointed to his chest, then his stomach, describing a sensation that sent a chill through Jenna's bones. He said it felt like something crawling upward, slow and determined, pressing up against his insides as though trying to guide itself toward the surface. He said sometimes it pushed from inside hard enough to make him gasp, and worse, he said he could hear it whisper through his ribs when the house got quiet. Jenna tried to remain steady for him, placing her palm gently on his abdomen, hoping to reassure him, maybe even prove there was nothing physically wrong. But the moment her hand touched him, something struck her palm from the inside with a sharp, deliberate thump. Jenna jerked back, breath caught in her throat.